Thank you for joining. I'm excited today to talk to you about branding. So I just want to give a quick introduction if you weren't here last week, but my name is Julie Wright. I'm the owner of Tally Creative. We're a full service marketing agency in Grand Island, Nebraska. And we help businesses from, one person startups. We help them develop their name and, create their logo from scratch, all the way to companies that have been around 100 years that are still struggling with some branding issues or maybe some rebranding issues. And so we are a full service agency. We do websites, photography, videography, graphic design, branding, kind of everything that a business needs. And so thank you so much for taking the time today out of your busy schedule to work on your business and to grow and to, I think continuing education is so important. So thank you for joining today. In the chat box, I did include the link if you guys want to. We'll be sharing the presentation on my screen, but if you'd like to go through it again later, if you'd like to go back and review or share it with a friend, the whole presentation is there today. I also included my email address, so please feel free to ask questions today, either by unmuting yourself or in the chat box. You can always raise your hand if you'd like to, to wait to be called on, or you can just jump right in. But if you have a specific question about your industry or something you'd like me to look over, give you advice on, feel free to reach out at julie@tallycreative.com, and I'd love to have that dialogue with you, especially if it's a specific question. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. I usually have two monitors going, and today I just have one, so be patient with me as I navigate this. All right. I'm going to just get that out of the way. Okay, can everyone see this okay? Perfect. All right. Today we're going to talk about the power of your brand and why it's so important. Now, oftentimes when people hear the word brand, they think about their logo. And yes, logo is one piece of your brand, but it is so much bigger than that. So if there's nothing else that you get away from today, please understand that when someone talks about a brand, it's the logo, but it's also the language. It can be the sounds, the scent, the taste, the physical interface, what you touch. It can be a color, a font, a tagline, a shape, a symbol, even a pattern. So as you look at these brands, again, if you think of a brand in your head, like the McDonald's, I'm loving it. That's a big part of their brand. If you think of Red Bull, the taste of Red Bull is part of their brand. If you think of Nike, the Nike symbol, that's a part of their brand. So all of these build into the brand. And so today when we talk about branding, I really want you to take this hour to use us more as a workshop to think about your own business. So we're going to go through these several times, and you don't have to have all of them. Now, if you're a welding company that welds, metal, you're probably not going to have a taste to your brand. So you can just cross that one out. But you might have a pattern, like a really shiny metal metallic might be more of a pattern for your brand. You may not need all of them, but I want you to kind of start with this list, and we'll have the full list at the end. And feel free, as things pop into your head, to jot them down. I hope everyone has a pencil and paper as we go through these items so that you can have a complete brand at the end of today and feel like you have just more well-rounded experience for your consumers. So when we talk about building a successful brand, it really comes down to these four things. So first, we have to define how we want our brand to be perceived. And that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. If we don't take the time to define how we want our brand to be perceived, others will define it for us. And once that's done, we don't have a lot of say in it. And so we want to be able to define how we want our brand to be perceived. Once we define that, which we'll do today, We want to spend the time to organize our business based around that promise. Now, just to give you a quick example, if one of the things that we want to define our brand is that we have quick service, we need to organize our business so that we can have quick service. If part of our brand wants to be quick service, but the way that we operate takes 2 hours to get something done that they could get done in a half an hour somewhere else, we didn't organize our business to meet that promise. So we'll get into that more later. But so for step 1, you have to define it. The step 2, you have to make sure that whatever you define, your business complements that. And if it doesn't, it might be making some adjustments in your business. Step 3 is going to be how you communicate that promise. So it's one thing to define it, and it's one thing to organize your business based on it, but we have to communicate that out to our customers. And then step 4 is we have to be consistent. And so when we talk about brand, it's really built on trust. And so the only way you can have trust is to be consistent. And so again, last week we talked about McDonald's French fries. That brand of McDonald's has built trust with me and their French fries, because when I go through the drive-thru, I know about how many I'm going to get, about what they're going to taste like, about how much it's going to cost, and about how long it's going to take. Now, they have built that trust in their brand of their French fries because of their consistency. If I go through McDonald's and they give me curly fries and they charge me $9, that trust is altered. And so as we go through, we really have to define our brand in a way that we can be consistent with it. So going back to the previous example, if something that you want to define your brand is quick service, but just because of maybe your lack of staff right now, maybe because of shipping limitations, maybe because of regulations, government regulations, if quick service is not something that you can consistently promise, then let's remove that from your brand, at least for now. Maybe once shipping gets figured out, that can be added in, or other things get worked out. But we really, as we go through these 4 steps over and over today, we have to be confident that whatever we promise as our brand, we can deliver. And not just once or twice, but we have to be able to deliver it consistently. Does that make sense to everyone? We'll go through this a lot more here going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share that screen again. So we're going to take a step back. We're going to come back to this building a successful brand. But I want to take a step back. We really talk about the brand. Your brand is your foundation of your business. It's really, when you think of building a house, it's the foundational part. So when we work with brand new companies, we spend a lot of time on this golden circle and on developing our brand. Now, if you haven't done this, that's okay. We're going to go back now and spend some time doing it, even if it's just this hour today, but I also hope that you spend time down the road. So if you haven't built this when you started your brand, you may think of it as adding in some floor supports later on, or some extra supports to your foundation now that you're up and running. So I want to talk just for a few minutes about this golden circle. And I'm going to show a 3-minute video here in a minute where Simon Snike actually explains it, because he can do it better than I can. And then we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit. But when we develop our brand, we often talk about the what, the French fries, the car parts, the cleaning service. We often talk about the what. Then we talk about the how and the why. And I hope after this video, your train of thought has shifted just a little bit to think about the why first. So let's watch this 3-minute video together, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Forward TV, the world is thinking.
All those great leaders and all those great organizations, everything from Martin Luther King to Apple Computers, it doesn't matter. Big companies, small companies in every single industry. All those that command great loyalty, people. Loyalty is a feeling. Loyalty is a feeling, a human feeling. All those that command loyalty from employees and from customers and from investors. Every single one of them, regardless of their industry, thinks, acts, and communicates the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everybody else. All I did was write it down. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. It's a bullseye. In the middle is the word why. The center ring is the word how. And the outside ring is the word what. It's this little idea that distinguishes those that survive those 3 years. And more importantly, it's this little idea that is able to inspire people to join you in your pursuit. Every single organization on the planet knows what they do. You know the products you sell and the services you offer. Some organizations know how they do what they do. These are the things that we think make us special or better or stand out from our competition. But not very many organizations can clearly state why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit, that's a result. By why, I don't mean to have an exit strategy. By why, I mean what's your purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why did you get out of bed this morning? And why should anyone care? As a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. We tell people what we do, we tell them how we do it, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, support, a vote, working hard. But all the inspired leaders, those with the capacity to inspire, every single one of them, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, thinks, acts, and communicates from the inside out. They all start with why. I use Apple if Apple were like everyone else, a piece of communication from them would sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? That's normal. Here's our new technology company. We have these features and that features, and we're better than our competition in this way. We're simpler and have a better user interface. Choose us. This is normal. Here's our law firm. We have all the best lawyers. We went to all the best schools. We win all of our cases. Choose us. This is the norm. But all the inspiring leaders and all the inspiring organizations do it differently. This is how Apple actually does it. They start here. Everything we do, they say, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? It feels different. You want to join me in this pursuit, not because my computers are better, but because you believe what I believe.
All right. Well, let me close this here. All right, so with that video, I use that example a lot to talk about the why. And there's a full 15-minute video if you ever want to go and watch the full TED Talk. It's really good information, but I just wanted to show that main clip and then talk about it a little bit. So some of the things that we talk about is when a brand builds trust in that middle circle, that why, we can pivot very easily. And so, for example, if I build business with the why of myself, my company, my brand, then let's say I want to offer a new product. My customer will pivot with me and my brand because they care about the why more than the what. So in order to build a successful brand, that's what we're building. We're building that middle circle of the trust. And we want our trust in our brand, not our products. Let's say that our trust is in our product that ships in 2 days. And then all of a sudden shipping gets moved to 4 days. We lose that trust. But if we can build the promise in our brand and build the brand, they'll trust us. And if we say, hey, we are so sorry, shipping is delayed a little bit this week, they'll say, do you know what? It's okay, because we believe in your brand. We believe in you and what you're doing. And the hows and the whats, those get worked out. But that's why we need to focus on the brand. And that's really what we're going to do today. Does anyone have any questions or comments just over that golden circle? Does that make sense? Has anyone worked through that before? All right, we're going to come back to that here in just a minute. Let's move on just a little bit, and I'm going to share that screen again. Perfect. Again, so if we can build our brand on the why, your cause, what you believe, why you do what you do. I like when he said, why do you wake up in the morning? Then we focus on the how. How do we do it? Is it our great team? Is it our great equipment? Is it our state-of-the-art technology? And then finally, what it is. So now let's dig into that brand just a little bit today. And we're going to talk about brand personalities. So I want everyone to kind of get your pen and paper. And when we talk through your brand, I like to say we need to put on our hat as if it's our best day at work. Now I know it's early, so hopefully everyone's had a good day so far. But when you really get into this brand work, you need to have the excitement you did when you started your brand, the excitement you have when you get a big order in, or when you're talking to someone, collaborating with someone. We need to have our best hat on. So if everyone can put on their most excited hat, not their everything's going wrong hat, you'll have a better voice behind your brand. So when we think of some of the most popular brands out there, we're going to start talking about their brand personalities. And this is something that these companies have spent a lot of time behind the scenes doing the homework, just like we're doing today. Now, you probably don't realize they're doing the homework because it was done, again, behind the scenes, but these brands did not fit into these personalities by accident. And your brand should not fit into a personality by accident. It shouldn't just say, well, their logo's cursive, so they must be sincere. That's not how it works. We really have to be intentional about deciding our personality. So if we look through some of the brands with a sincerity, we think of Disney, Hallmark, Amazon, Cadbury. They care about us. They care about our family. They want to make our life easier. We think of exciting brands. We think of Tesla, Red Bull, Coke, Nike. They're out, they're being adventurous. They're snowboarding down the mountains. They're doing the exciting things. They're taking the big risks. They didn't get in that personality by accident. Then we think of brands that are smart, are industry leaders. We think of Google, Intel, the ones that know what they're doing, and that those brands fall into that category together. We think of a sophisticated brand, Tiffany Company, Rolex, Gucci, and then ruggedness. We have, our Jeep and our Marlboro. Now, if we would have put together this worksheet ourselves, we could have done this, and not because, Jeep never told me I am in the ruggedness personality brand category. They never told me that in a commercial, but everything that they did, when we go back to this, everything that they do speaks rugged, right? If they're picking a pattern for Jeep, they're probably going to pick a tire track or a mud. They're not going to pick a diamonds, right? If all of a sudden Jeep came out and their pattern on their background of their magazine ad was diamonds and glitter, would we be a little confused, right? If the smell, the sound, they're all going to be rugged because that's their brand. It's more than just a logo. Let's look at some of these other brands. Let's talk about Disney here for a second. And now when we go back to everything Disney, the colors, the fonts, the shapes, if you've been to Disneyland, the smell, the music, the taste, everything screams to Disney. And they have done that on purpose. Disney has spent so much time on their brand that they're not going to allow something within their brand that doesn't fit. What if you saw an ad for Disney and it was mud and tire tracks and it said, "Can't wait to see you at Disney"? That would be so confusing, right? Because there's our children laughing and playing and family and growing up and imagination. And so if you think between Jeep and Disney, even if they're doing the same magazine ad, having a pattern and an imagery and a shape, those all play into that brand. So even if that's all we see, if we just saw mud and the Jeep logo, we would understand what they're saying. Or if we just saw a pattern of Mickey Mouse's outline as a symbol and we saw the Disney logo, it would make sense to us. Now, this takes a long time to develop this brand, but let's start today and work through this for your brand. Okay, now we're going to do kind of a silly, fun exercise called free word association. So this is something that we do with brands right off the bat. And if you have a business partner or someone that you work with, even employees, we did this with our team. It's good to do this exercise with them because you can figure out pretty quickly if people are on the same page or not. All right, so does everyone have a pencil and pen? You don't have to share your answers out loud, so I want you to do this from an honest place. I don't want you to do what you think you should say, but I want you to say what first thing comes to your head for this free word exercise. So if I say my brand, and when I say brand, you can fill that in with company, with foundation, with organization, with nonprofit, with store, whatever makes the most sense for you. But if I say my company was a food, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? All right. If I say, if my company was a vacation destination, it could be a actual city or state. It could also be somewhere abstract like a beach. Or if my company was a vacation destination, what would it be? This one's often very telling. If my company was an animal, which one would it be? Richard, I see you writing. Good job. All right. If my company was a movie star or a famous person, who would it be? And last one, if my company was an outfit or a uniform or something to wear, what would it be? And this could be as detailed down to the earrings or as blanket statement as just one word. Now, there are several of these questions you can go through, but this was just an example. And this is something I'd recommend doing with people you work with. Because sometimes we'll sit down with two business partners and we'll say, if your company was a food, what would it be? And somebody might say a fancy steak dinner, and the other business partner might say comfort food, like a chicken pot pie. And while they're both delicious, the brand message behind those two things are very different. So if one person thinks of the organization as comfort food and warm and safe, and the other one thinks it as, high end, rare and maybe expensive, those two things, while they can go together, they don't always. The animal one is another one that really strikes people, I think is a good tell. You can tell if someone says our company's a tiger or a shark or a jaguar or a Mustang horse. That's how they think of their company. But then if their employee thinks of it as a cuddly kitten, those are two different sides of the spectrum. While both of them are acceptable answers, it might not work to be the same. So there may need to be some discussion as far as what that looks like. Does anyone want to share any of their answers or anything that stuck to, like, jumped out right away when I brought up any of those prompts? Okay, Richard has orange, Bahamas, lioness, Sandra Bullock, and business suit. Richard, can you describe any of your answers for us? Oh, we can't hear you. Can you unmute real quick? Now, your answer of an orange for a food, that's something a little bit unique. Why orange? Can you explain that to me a little bit? I'm still having trouble hearing you. Can you type it in the chat box and I'll share it?
Unmute yourself.
There, I think you're unmuted, but I still can't hear you. Try one more time. No. Why don't you type in the chat box or try to reconnect your audio? We'll come back to you. I see Janet over here. Janet, you had some good answers. Let me see. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna view you bigger. Janet, can you read some of those for me?
Sure. I said pizza, mountains, tiger, Scotty McQuarrie, and the jumpsuit. I'm not sure where the jumpsuit came from.
Okay. Sounds good. Why did any of those stick out to you, Janet?
Well, I think the tiger, I had to chuckle when you use that as an example. I think the boldness and the willing to try new things and explore.
Perfect. Okay, Rick. Yeah. That's your, and pizza for your food. And I know that you serve pizza and it's just kind of everyone loves it, right?
The comfort food, yes.
Comfort food, right. Not too fancy, but is good any time of day, right?
Right.
All right, Richard, thanks so much. You have orange for bright. I like that. So you thought more of a bright Christmas, Bahamas. I can go along with that. A lioness being forward, Sandra Bullock, well known. That's a great answer. And then a business suit, probably for that professionalism again. So that's awesome. So again, I encourage you to do that with your staff, do that, especially if you have a partner, and then talk through that. And you guys can make up as many different ones as you want, or Google some good questions, but just make sure that you're on the same page. And sometimes a business can have two sides. For example, we did this exercise with a board of a nonprofit, and they help with children who have been in abuse situations. And so they had two sets of questions, and the questions were kind of coming back all over the place. And then finally we realized, so we did it the first time of, let's answer all these as to the children that we serve. And then the questions came back as for animal, teddy bear, kitten, protector. But then we also went, so then we asked the same set of questions as, but now how do we view this when we're in court fighting for these kids? And then the answer was, tiger, lion, shark. And so just think of that too. Maybe internally, your business is very aggressive. Like if you are maybe do finance and you're very, aggressive risk takers, but then to your clients, you're very calm and very wise. So think of it that way too, that you might have a separate set of answers internally and externally, which is completely fine as long as you can keep that line separate, okay? It's hard to be a shark and a kitten at the same time.
I was just gonna say that mine didn't change.
Okay.
Like the difference. Like for food, well, mine is for a Head Start program.
Okay.
And so for food, it was the immediate thought was the school lunch. And for vacation, summer vacation. That's the
Yeah.
immediate thought that comes. And then animal, it didn't change. It still remained a bear.
Mhm.
Or movie star, I thought of like Morgan Freeman, like
Mhm.
the one school show with the baseball bat.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that movie is. And then for outfit, it's either you thought uniform, like school uniform, and or just school dress.
Mhm. Yeah. And April,
So
I
it
would
really
challenge
didn't.
you. Yeah, yours are very pretty concrete. And I would challenge you to kind of do that one more time, but think more of feelings. So maybe not quite so literal. So while school food is exactly what you think of when you think of a Head Start, but think of more of like a food of how you want your brand to feel. So do you want to, when kids eat the food, do you want them to feel again like a ooey gooey mac and cheese, or do you want it to be like a salad that's going to be nutritious? And even if that's not what you're serving, it's more about what you want your brand identity to be,
Sure.
more than maybe literally. So do that again, and I challenge you to kind of think of it as, what do I, when people think of us, what do we want them to think of? So this is kind of the first step in identifying and defining who we are. Remember when we talked about that right up at the front here? So we need to define how we want to be perceived. And this is one way to do that, to go through exercises like this. And we have a couple more to define how we want to be perceived. And ideally, once we define how we want to be perceived, people from the outside will, if you ask them the same question, they would have the same answer. That's our goal. So that if we say our food is, a high-end steak, then if we ask our customers, what would you describe company B as if they were a food? Our goal is that a customer would say, oh, I don't know, like a high-end steak, even if their industry has nothing to do with food. Josh, do you have a question there?
Oh no, I was just saying I could share mine as
Yeah,
well.
please do.
So I have a gutter company, and the first thought that I think of is like property protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want, like, so when I think of food, I'd say like steak and eggs, like hearty breakfast, like I don't know, like the premier breakfast, I guess. Like no extra fat, just the goodness right there. And when I think of vacation, I just think of like the beach, because I want people to be like worry free and not have to worry about their property. And for animal, I thought of a gorilla right away. I almost thought of incorporating like a gorilla into the name, just for like to say like the gutters are gonna hang strong, and they're strongly connected, a good connection, properly connected.
Mm-hmm.
And then for like star, I just thought of someone strong like The Rock, and I guess I don't know. I guess that's just for the only reason is just because he's like big and strong. And for outfit, I thought of a raincoat, just because I think I'm gonna like that's the best outfit to choose. Like I'm gonna protect the property, so like a rain
Absolutely.
fit that I thought would be most fitting.
Josh, that was a great example. And you did the exact right thing. So for vacation, instead of thinking literally, you're not thinking rain vacation because you deal with gutters. You think of how you want that person to feel. So you did that exactly right. So it's really thinking of not thinking literally, but allowing ourselves to think abstractly of feelings, emotions, state of mind. And so that is great. And I feel like that's very consistent. And so you're on your way. Let's talk another way that we can use to define our brand. And we use this tool. And this is something I'd really challenge you again to download this or to look at this link that I shared and do this whole exercise. Because what the goal is to put an X where you feel like your brand lays. Now, our goal is you don't want to have your X's right in the middle. We recommend not more than 3 times should it be in the middle. Because if it is in the middle, you're going to have a hard time defining your brand against other brands. If you say, my brand is kind of sophisticated, but kind of playful, kind of feminine, but kind of masculine, kind of classic, kind of modern, that's not a very memorable brand. And so you really need to push yourself. And if you do find that all of your X's are right in the middle, you might need to push yourself. And how am I going to stand out? And you could also create this same worksheet for your competition. So if your competition is all one way, maybe you want to push your brand to be the other way. So if your brand is very organic, maybe they just everything they do kind of looks homemade and looks a little bit like arts and craft time. Maybe you want to make all of your marketing material with very straight lines and very, professional looking, very geometric, so that when people see both of your signs, they're not mistaken on which one's which. So I would encourage you to go down this list and you could do this on a scale from 1 to 10, you could do these X's, but really try to define those brands. We're going to come back to this in just a minute. So if and again, you don't need to write this all down. I share the link. So the next step is, what I would recommend is, once you have your X's, to pick 3 words that maybe you're either the closest to or that were the easiest to do. So if you can say, oh, I know my brand is more masculine than feminine, or I know my brand is very youthful, then that would be one way. And maybe there's other words that come to mind when you were going through that word association. Maybe that word like protection for you, Josh, or, the words like comfort, or some of those other words that just stuck out to you. We're going to fill those into these boxes here. And this is how we're going to use these 3 words, and we're going to go through this together. And these are the words we're going to start to define our brand. So I'm going to show you what we did for our company. So again, our company is called Tally Creative. We're a full service marketing agency. We're a team of 8 right now of a great people. We are a true family at where we work. It is all hands on deck. I could be doing anything from giving a presentation to a couple hundred people to taking out the trash in a matter of 2 minutes. And that's just how we work in our organization. It's all hands on deck, and we all do whatever we can to get our clients to make sure that their best foot is going forward. So as we went through this exercise together, these are 3 of the words that stuck out to us. So one of the words was expert. How that applies is we're constantly learning. We are on webinars, we're on master classes, we're at trainings. We want to be the experts and the thought leaders in the marketing industry. What we do is we openly share our knowledge with others. No strings attached. We will tell you we are an open book when it comes to anything we know. But what we don't want to do is turn away new ideas or new collaborations with other people who might add value or expand on what we do. The next thing is we're passionate, and how it applies is because we truly love what we do. How we're going to do that is we're going to set goals and we're going to celebrate achievements, just not with our own company, but with other companies. One of our clients we've been working with is Janet on the call here, and we watch her Facebook analytics. And when she has a good post, we celebrate in our office, which sounds silly, but if we get an engagement rate that's above 10%, that's a win, not just for her, but for us as well. And so we set those goals and we do celebrate them. What we don't want to do is we don't want to be overly formal or stiff. We want to be authentic. We want to be honest about our product. We want to communicate pros and cons with our customers. If we feel like something is maybe they don't need it, we'll tell them that. If it's maybe overkill or they don't need to spend that much, we'll tell them that. And then we also don't want to overpromise or sell. So just because we know what products are good, but we don't want to be pushy salespeople. our goal is that we're going to use these 3 words to define our brand. So if we go back to this, now we need to organize our brand around this promise. One way that we've organized our brand about being an expert is that we offer free discovery meetings. And at that discovery meeting, it's not a sales meeting. It is just to get to know the client, and we will answer any questions that we have. We will give them all the tips and tricks and tools, probably more than we probably should. But part of our brand is that we don't withhold information. We want people to be successful. And so that's how we've organized our business around that promise. Now, if we said in our brand that we want to share information openly, and then if we had a meeting with someone and we charged them to answer a question, or we nickel and dimed them to give them something, that doesn't go along with our brand promise. We communicate that by telling them that this meeting is 100% free. It's for 1 hour. You can ask us anything and we will answer it. And then we're consistent. That is what we do. And if all of a sudden, every 10th discovery meeting, we send out a bill, we're going to lose that trust really quickly. So this is how that's just one example how we've defined our brand and how we have to carry it through. It's one thing to define it, but then you have to change your business to actually fit it that way. You have to decide what you're going to do to make that happen and what you're not going to do. Does that make sense to everyone? Are there any questions over that part? Do you guys see how by developing those brand promises, you have to do it all the way through and you have to communicate that to your team. So if you tell your team, this is one kind of silly example, but have you ever been driving on the interstate and you see a truck stop or a gas station and on the side of the building or on their sign it says clean restrooms? Have you guys ever seen that? Or mom approved restrooms? So that is a promise of their brand that they've made, they communicated, and hopefully they've made their business model around. So maybe they spent a little bit more to have the heated toilet seats, or maybe they have a janitor that cleans their bathrooms every hour, or whatever it is. That's a promise that they made internally. They communicated it externally. Then they transition their business to make that promise a reality. Then they have to be consistent. Because if I am traveling on the interstate with my kids and I see a billboard that says clean restrooms 5 miles ahead, and if we stop and the restrooms are disgusting, do you think I'm going to be more critical of that place because they made a promise and they didn't follow through, right? I know what a truck stop bathroom looks like or a gas station bathroom, and those are kind of my expectations. But if they promise me that it's going to be better and it's not, I'm going to be disappointed. And that's where I might leave a Google review. I might complain. I might ask for money back because you made me a promise. We've been running into that. I've been traveling a lot, and you look and you book a hotel and it says that they have a pool and a hot tub. And because of COVID and for other reasons, a lot of places don't have their pools and hot tubs going up right now. And that's a promise that they made. I get there and it's not there, and then I'm disappointed. If they hadn't made that promise on the website, I wouldn't have been expecting it. And so just remember that when you make a promise, you have to be consistent. If you promise that you can get an oil change done in 20 minutes, you have to do it. And you have to arrange your business to be able to do it, right? And if you can't, you need to put in fine print. No one likes fine print, but sometimes you have to. Like, for example, if you have takeout pizzas at Stinger's One Stop, Janet, you might need to put wall supplies last. Because if you make a promise and then all of a sudden you run out of pizza, then people are going to be upset. And so sometimes you do have to put in that fine print because that's going to help you a little bit if you can't fulfill a promise.
We maybe need to do that with our new specials.
Yes.
Right.
But if you only have...
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, the other day, we were all ready with noon specials. It was a really good special. All of a sudden at 10:30, we had somebody come in and order 20 takeouts.
Uh-huh.
well, we ran out by noon.
Right.
Something we couldn't recreate. So
Right. So you have to be very careful about having some of those policies in place, some of those, and then you also need to have the answers if you can't fulfill that promise. You need to be able to explain why. You need to have, you can't just say, if you promise an oil change in 20 minutes and it takes an hour, you can't just say, well, we couldn't do it. You got to have a reason, an explanation, maybe a discount for next time. If you make a promise, you need to uphold that or have some kind of follow-up afterwards if you can't fulfill that promise. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
And the more consistent you can be, the better that's going to build that brand. And so just remember that. And that promise can change over time. It doesn't have to be the same forever. It could be set by the season, by the year, it doesn't have to be forever. It just, whatever you're communicating out has to be able to happen. And in order to build that brand and to build that trust. Are there any more questions before we go on? We just have a couple more slides and then I'll open it up for some just general questions at the end here. We're almost done, guys. All right, so here's an open worksheet for you to fill in. So those first 3 words that come to your mind, fill those in here. How it applies, what you're gonna do. Maybe what you're gonna do is that you need to adjust your business practices. So if you're promising clean restrooms, how that applies is that you're going to make sure that you have it cleaned every hour. So maybe what you're going to do is train your staff and make a cleaning schedule. What you're not going to do is let your restrooms get gross, right? So actually spend some time and build that out. This is our last slide. So this goes back to that very beginning again. If you guys remember way back when we were talking about our brand execution. So this is just a worksheet for you to go through and, check these off or write it in if it needs help. How's your logo? Do you like it? Is it, on a scale from 1 to 10? Is it a 10? Is it a 5? Do you not have one? Where are you at with that? What kind of language are you using? Are you using the same words over and over? Are you talking about, for example, for Josh, are you using the language of protection and strength and strong? Are you using that language in your website, in your social media posts, when you answer the phone, when people have questions, making sure that you're using the same keywords over and over and over to build your brand? Does your brand have a sound or a music or a scent or a taste? Is there something people are touching? We talk a lot when people are ordering business cards or folders or note cards. What does it feel like? Is it a soft touch? Is it a cardstock? Is it a water paper? Those do matter. Color, fonts, taglines, shapes, symbols, patterns, and then clothing. Again, if you're a automotive shop, your staff should be wearing clothes appropriate for that. But if you're a high-end restaurant, your staff should be wearing clothing appropriate to the brand. And even in a restaurant, if you walk in and the hostess is wearing a black tie and a white shirt, that sets a different mood than if they're wearing a t-shirt with the restaurant's name across it. So just by the clothing that you're wearing, that can change the whole atmosphere and the whole brand. All right. So I just want to go over this one more time. So let's pretend that I'm a candle company and I make candles out of the best lavender you can find. And all of our lavender is imported from India and it's the best lavender in India, okay? Let's say that I sell my candles based off the what? The candles that are made with the best lavender in India. And now let's say, because of whatever reason, that lavender farm in India is shut down and I can no longer get that lavender. If I have built all my customers on my what, and now I need to pivot and use eucalyptus from Africa, I've just lost all that trust because everything I was telling them was that lavender is the best candle. Now I have to go back on my word and saying, I know I said lavender was the best, but now eucalyptus is the best. I lost that trust, right? And sometimes we can't control the what's. We can't control the price of products always. We can't control shipping. We can't control other people. We can't control the what. Sometimes things just have to change. Maybe I have to go through a different supplier for my glass or a different supplier for my wax, or maybe, you know, things change. But if I go to my why, let's start over. Let's say that I'm going to build a candle company that's based on responsibly sourced material. And I'm helping farmers in different countries. And I promise it's going to be the best quality because I care about what goes into your home. And it's a passion of mine. And I care about these farmers in other countries. If I built my why on that, then I talk about how I do it. And then I talk about what it is. If I first build my foundation on my why and people trust me, that I'm doing the research, I'm finding the best material, I'm spending my nights and weekends researching, they're gonna trust my brand. And my product can pivot on one foot. So think of your brand as, I always like to kind of explain this as your brand is your solid foot, it's your foundation. Then your product is your pivoting foot that can hop around. And that's okay because your brand is concrete and people believe in your brand. And then if you pivot, people will trust you. So Josh, with your gutters, if your brand is built on you and that you promise quality and that your business is strong and protection and you're going to take care of them, then let's say you want to add in roofing. Because your brand is built on you, you can pivot. Or let's say that you just got in 10,000 screen doors. And so for one summer, you want to install screen doors because it's a great opportunity. You can pivot because your company is built on you and the promises you have and that you're quality and that you're strong and that and you can pivot. But if your company is only built on your product and then you say, guess what? We have a new product. You have to start from ground zero, building that up. And so that's why that brand is so important. McDonald's can release anything they want, right? They try muffins. Remember when the McGriddle came out and everyone thought they were crazy? They can say, we're going to start selling coffee. And because the brand is built on McDonald's, we pivot with them very easily. If McDonald's whole brand was only built on their cheeseburger, and that was it, and then they said, we're going to offer coffee, we'd all say like, but you're a hamburger place. You can't sell coffee, right? Because they built their brand on quick service, affordable, good, good enough food. It's easy to get a hold of. And so that's what they built their brand on. I'm loving it. It doesn't say I'm loving cheeseburgers. They built their brand on I'm loving it, which could be a muffin or a coffee or a pancake or a cheeseburger. Does that make sense? So we got to build our brand on the why, and then we got to pivot with that other foot. And this year with COVID and everything else, we've all had to pivot, and the companies that build their strong brand can pivot whenever they need to, and they'll have that loyal following their promise. And that's really our goal for everyone. So that really wraps up what I have today. I'm going to just share really quickly my contact info one more time. And you are always welcome to reach out if you have specific questions, but we have just a few minutes if you need to jump off. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for investing in your business. Not often do you set aside an hour to focus on your brand, so thank you for doing so today. We will be back next Wednesday. This is a series and every class is different, so you don't have to attend one to attend the next. And so next Wednesday, we'll be back at 9 o'clock for a whole new topic. And so please join us next Wednesday at 9 and make sure to go to Native360 to get registered for that. Are there any questions before we jump off today?
Julie, this is Janet. Can you provide that link again, please?
Yep, I sure can. All right. Did you guys learn something today? Thumbs up if you learned something. All right. Good.
Yeah, good. direct, better insight on like being specific about defining things about the brand, like how I want it to be perceived, and you know, making sure that I don't promise things that I can't keep. I mean, it just gave me a way better idea of like what I should be doing.
Good. Yeah. And you don't have to have a lot of promises. Think of one. You know, it could even be a simple promise of when you walk in our showroom, you're going to be greeted with a smile. And that's not something you necessarily have to communicate outwardly, but you need to communicate inwardly. So even if that's a simple promise of when everyone walks in, we're going to walk from outside of the counter and we're going to meet them at the door and ask them what we can help with. More of a boutique style shopping experience versus standing behind the counter and yelling. And so even if it's a simple promise of whenever I answer the phone, it could be even a promise of I'm going to call people back the same day, no matter what.
Yeah,
that could
like,
be a promise of communication.
So like my promise that I want to build my company on is just professionalism, is like treating people with like integrity, and, you know, like putting their one first. And, you know, because I've worked for plenty of people that they're not like this in their companies, you know, and it's like having that father that was a certain way, and I'm saying like I'm never going to be that way when I'm a father, you know. That's what I'm wanting to do. My brand is I want to run my company the way that I believe it should be ran, the way that, you know, they're not, or whatever those places that I worked haven't.
Yeah. So you need to share that. Absolutely. Yep. So you need to share that as your brand, because that's more important to people than the actual product, because they can get that product anywhere. But what's going to set you apart is what you just said, and really building a company on that. One promise that I have been toying with for over a year, but I haven't been able to commit to yet. There's a realtor that I'm friends with, and she changes her voicemail every day to say, for example, mine would be, hello, this is Julie Wright. Today is Wednesday, March 31st. I will be in the office until noon. Please leave a message. The reason she does that is because then people know that she checks her voicemail every day, and she'll let you know if she's available, unavailable. Maybe I'm in the office till noon. After that, you can reach me by email and I'll get back to you by the end of the night. And because communication is very important to her. That's something I've toyed with for a long time, but I can't quite make that commitment yet, because to do that, you have to change your voicemail every single day, and you have to know your schedule every day. And so that's a goal of mine, but I know that I can't make that promise yet, because while I love to get back to people the same day, sometimes it is the next day. So that's something that, again, I'm not ready to make that promise yet, because I can't commit to it. But as soon as I can, that's going to be my next thing. So it's even good to be thinking in the future of promises, but don't make the promise don't make the 2-day shipping promise until you can guarantee 2-day shipping. It's okay to wait on that, but it's good to set that as a goal. And so to have your promise goals. Are there any other questions, general questions?
I had some questions, just like on, like, as far as you touched briefly on appearance. Like for me, I think that's pretty important as far as like trying to talk to contractors and talk to potential clients, you know, looking the part seems to be like a make it or break it as far as getting these jobs.
Yeah. And again, deciding what you want it to be. Is your appearance, is it just a logoed polo? Then that's great. Is it a suit? Do you dress for the day? We do that a lot in our office. We dress for the day. And so if you have a meeting with a bank, my appearance might look a lot different than if I'm out on a job site. But just really having those guidelines and saying, as your team grows, this is what our brand stands for. So, if every time I do this, this is how I'm going to dress. This is how, and staying true to that, because people, that even something as silly, again, if you walk in and a hostess is wearing a tie versus a t-shirt, that that first impression, you're going to get a different impression of that restaurant by just what the hostess is wearing. And there's so many times when I go into a restaurant, for example, I went out to dinner at a really nice restaurant for my anniversary, and the bartender looked nice on the top, but you could see he was wearing shorts and flip-flops from the waist down. And I just happened to be sitting at the bar where you could notice that. And most people probably wouldn't care. But for me, I'm like, oh, you're so close on your brand, but you're kind of missing the mark. Like if you would just, follow through and just wear black slacks and, that would elevate your brand that much more. So sometimes it is in the details. And so it's easy to say, well, we have a logo, so who cares what the bartender wears? But here it is, 4 months later, and I still remember that because to me, that was off from the brand and it stuck out to me. And my first thought was, something's not right. Either he got called in late or maybe his boss is on vacation or something's not right. And so you want to make your brand so consistent that when something's off, people notice it.
Yeah, just the perception of cutting corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, so if he's cutting corners in what he's wearing, is he cutting corners in my drink? Is he cutting corners? Again, it seems so simple to wear shorts behind a bar, but it does take you down that rabbit hole of what else are they doing halfway? So just those small things can really build on your brand. Well, I want to thank everyone for your time today. I hope to see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. If you guys have any further questions, please email me or reach out. Pete knows how to get a hold of me as well. And Pete, thank you for the opportunity to share today.
You bet. I appreciate it. You have a good week, everybody.
All right, I'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.